For a lot of people, retirement is a big financial unknown. People have questions like, do I have enough super? Am I doing enough? Am I too late? What if I get there and then I just hate it? Well, today's guest has built a career helping people answer those big unknowns. James Wrigley is a Melbourne-based financial advisor, part owner of First Financial. You might have even seen him on TikTok or Instagram, where more than 200,000 people tune in for his finance videos. And now he's written a book, Retire Life Ready. It's a practical guide to building wealth and shaping a retirement that actually feels good. That's today on Money and a Good Life. Well, my name's Stephanie Coombs and I'm here with my co-host, the one and only Ryan Watson. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, Steph. How are you? The one and only?
The one and only, I assume.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have a twin out there or something, do you?
Not that I know of.
Thank God. Now, Ryan, you know James pretty well, so how about you do the introduction this time?
Sure.
Let's mix it up. Come
So
on.
today, as you've touched on, Steph, we've got James Wrigley. James and I go back quite a ways. Been an advisor, initially reached out to him maybe 4 or 5 years ago, have genuinely always admired the way he goes about advice, professionalism, puts the client first. So I am absolutely chuffed to have him on with us today. And you can add author to his title as well. So the book, Retire Life Ready. Welcome, James.
Thank you for having me.
Well done on writing your first book and getting it out there. What was that process like?
It kind of starts and stops is the way that I've described it. Like from signing the contract to say, okay, you're going to write the book, that was this kind of mad rush to meet a particular deadline. But in the end, I got there easier than I thought I would. And then it kind of all disappears. And then it's the editing and it's, okay, we need this by Monday. And so this mad rush of trying to edit the whole book within the space of about a week or so whilst do a day job. And then you get onto the PR and the promotion of it, posted on social media and podcasts and interviews and TV.
And speaking of the PR, James, here, there and everywhere. I'm seeing you everywhere. I'm not on TikTok, but I imagine, but I'm seeing you here doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, and I think it's part, Scott, that's organised all of it, but the book's been picked up really well also. So I had no idea what this whole book world was like, but the pre-orders really matter. Yeah. And they said to me, look, if you can do 200 or 300 pre-orders, that'd be amazing. No one does 1,000 pre-orders, and we did over 3,000 pre-orders before it went live, and that then so many more other places were interested in me having a chat with me because it had done so many pre-orders.
I've got to ask, James, of the 3,000, how many did you buy personally as Christmas presents?
So yeah, I bought 100 copies that don't actually count.
That's how honest. Full disclosure, I love it.
But they don't count in all of those.
Oh, they don't.
All of those. And I didn't tell my wife that I'd ordered all of these copies of the book, and she was home when it got delivered, and she sends me this message. She's like, "Some guys just dropped off like 5 boxes of your book. What the hell are you?"
I was like, I wonder what that's about. That's so weird.
What do you need 5 copies of your own book for? So anyway, they're in the lounge room at home.
Well, that shows obviously that there's an appetite for this topic about retiring, right? Like, I mean, if you're getting that many pre-orders and that's usually unheard of, why do people need to hear what you're saying? Why is there not more information out there about retiring well?
I think there's a fair bit of information out there if you go searching for it. Like, I'm not the first person that's written a book about retirement. It's probably one of the first ones that has a cover that looks like this. So I was pretty adamant that I didn't want a boring retirement cover on there. I wanted to be a bit fun and have some colours and so forth on there. But I think also then the people that have over the years, and like it's been a hard slog for a long, long time building Instagram and TikTok and all of these different places. But there's hundreds of thousands of people that follow me on all of these different places. And I'd never even considered writing a book. But then when Wiley approached me and I first put it out there, the response was enormous that people were interested in that I'd written a book.
Just on building your following, and like I said, James, you and I have known each other for at least 4 or 5 years. The thing that strikes me about building your following is just your discipline and your accountability to do it on a daily or weekly basis. I remember you tried LinkedIn Live and all the trying things, learning, but just continuing to do it.
Yeah. And the thing is I enjoy it. And like I did it for so long before there was any financial reward whatsoever. Like even before there was one client calling up saying, "Hey, James, I've seen your stuff on the internet," wherever it might have been. Now we get a lot of that. And then there's the book and there's all these other things that are coming from it. So it's kind of all exciting now. But you don't see the 6, 7, 8 years. Like from when I was first doing posts on LinkedIn, I think it was probably up to 8 or 9 years ago when I first started doing videos and there was nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing. But I like the editing, and financial advice is quite rigid in the what we have to do and how we need to provide that advice.
We all love compliance, don't we,
Yeah,
James?
the compliance. But doing the videos, it's a bit of a creative outlet for me. I can edit things, I can look up these apps, and I can mess around with all of that type of stuff. It takes a lot of time, yes, but I enjoy doing it.
You also strike me someone you want to continuously learn and get better, so that plays to that as well.
That's it. And you look back at some of my earlier videos, I'm like, oh, these are horrendous. But then now, it's like it's nothing for me to whip out my phone. If I stumble on a word or whatever, I don't even care. Just a minute and a half to record something, edit it for a couple of minutes and post it, and it's done. And then you get on with the rest of your day.
What's really resonating on there with people?
Tax, always. Inheritance,
Really?
always.
Yeah. And it's not tax avoidance, it's tax minimisation.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right, okay.
It's always tax, always inheritance is a big one, and I think that kind of just goes to the demographics. Like there's all of this literature written about the wealth transfer that we're in the very early stages of, and there's so many people out there that appreciate. I know they're 60-something or 70-something, and they've got their house and they've got their bit of super and whatnot, and that's eventually going to end up with their kids, and so they're wanting to know some answers. So that stuff always does really well. And then also when I turn the camera around and I do my kind of coloured drawings with the coloured connector pens that I've got, that's when the pages really started to take off, when I was doing coloured diagrams for whatever I was explaining.
That's so weird. Why do you think that was?
Because people it's this show me, don't tell me.
Yeah.
Show me what to do, and then in the end, a lot of people reach out for financial advice. But if you're just sitting there telling them something, there's only a certain number of people that will take that in.
Yeah.
But a lot more people will pick up the visual.
I think it's 80 or 90%, up to 90% of people are visual learners.
And I had no idea, but when I was in Sydney a few weeks ago at one of the bookstores signing some books, and this lady hung around right towards the end, and she came up and she said, "Look, you'll have no idea, but I'm legally blind, and my husband's legally blind. We can't see whatever level of sight she has." But she said, your videos, and you're not doing it on purpose, it's not for me, but I need to tell you how important your videos are for people like me with these different colours. You're just using different colours so that it's easy to explain. But because you're saying red and then green, and she's like, I can't see the colours, but I can differentiate that they're different.
Yeah.
And I can then understand what you're saying. And it was amazing for her to come up and have this conversation with me afterwards.
Well,
I had no idea.
I did want to. How did that make you feel, James?
Oh, it was incredible. All the new clients in the world that you put all of that to the side. It's the stuff when there's these everyday people coming up to you saying, James, I love your videos, I love you. And it's just getting the lift up from downstairs. Some lady stopped me saying, hey, James, I follow you online. Your stuff's amazing.
You're famous.
That just gives you the best feeling.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's why you do it. And that, I think, and without embarrassing or anything like that today, the thing that's always come across in anything that I've seen is your authenticity. And I think that you build trust through your audience in terms of your authenticity.
Yeah, thanks.
Just want to we touched on clients and, what potentially some of the conversations look like in a first appointment. I think you and I both agree, 9 out of 10 people come in and they think it's about superannuation or investing.
Yeah.
But what are the real conversations, James?
Yeah, you park that to the side, and sometimes, depending on where the client's starting the conversation, you might also kind of pull them up and say, look, it's all important. Your numbers are important, but let's just push that to the side. Where are you at today? What are you stuck on? Why are you even here in the first place? Why did you reach out? And then you can kind of go through a bit of a conversation of, well, what do you really want life to look like? It's say you were 10 years down the track. What do you want to have had happen? Where do you want to be? What does this life look like for you? Tell me about your kids. What are they going to be up to? And so you can have a whole hour or more conversation with them before you go anywhere near how much do you have in superannuation and what is your income.
And that's where I think, James, we've always found a lot of common ground, particularly with the way we do advice at Tribeca. We look at 10 years, 3 years, and then now, and far more about the people and how do we build relationships. So I think that's really where it all started.
Yeah. So you get people, and I kind of speak about this in the book. There's a lot of people will come in, whether it's in the initial phone call or that initial meeting, they'll take a lot of pride in telling me how much money they have. I've got $5 million or $10 million. My net worth is all the rest, and say, that's nice, but How much of that is tied up in your own home? If your net worth is $5 million and 4.5 of that is tied up in your own home, congratulations, you're still going to work on Monday. You don't have enough money to retire on. So some people don't understand that until we start to explain it. But as I said, you can have a pretty lengthy conversation before you go anywhere near some of the numbers.
It's interesting you talk about the numbers as well, and then you talk about retirement as well, but this piece around whether people actually like retirement and what does it look like. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, and so we want to start the conversation. I suspect you do as well in Tribeca, but we want to start the conversation with, well, what do you want life to actually look like? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to surround yourself with? Because health permitting, for most people, in retirement's probably going to be a 30-year journey. Health, medication and so forth is increasing, people living longer, all the rest of it. So putting aside kind of one-off health events, it's a pretty long time. If someone's retiring around age 60, that's years and years and years. And so you want to make sure you've got something to stimulate your mind, a reason to get out of bed, some people that you want to hang around with and spend some time with. Let's work on that. And then, what do the numbers need to look like to help support that?
What do people get wrong in retirement, do you think?
I think people, there's that first point about hanging too much value on the house that people live in. So, some people, as I said, they come in and say, I'm worth however many millions I'm worth. But a lot of that's tied up in the value of their own home. You need somewhere to live. And whether it's a $200,000 house or a $2 million house or a $20 million house, you need somewhere to live. And then it's not then paying enough attention to the other assets, their super, their investment property, their savings, their shares, whatever it might be. It's these other assets that are ultimately going to allow you to live that retirement life. Sometimes you're prompting people to say, you know what, you can actually retire if only you would downsize. And some people, they don't even think of that. Some people say, oh, that's fantastic, I'm actually going to do it. Yep. And then there's other conversations where I've said, no, I absolutely cannot because my kids come over and my grandkids come over and I need this massive house for the once a month when there's 10 people in here, but otherwise it's just my wife and I rattling around in this massive house. And they place so much importance on keeping that home. Fine, you then need to work more and we need to do some other planning to be able to fund your retirement.
I think that's such a common story though, right? And the family home has so much emotion too. That's the difficult thing. Unmarrying yourself from the place where your kids grew up and where you have all these happy memories.
Like I was going to say, you even imagine, the measurements of the kids are on the kitchen wall and there's all those, where everything happened.
Yeah.
I had a friend who had to, they had all the sort of the measurements as it went there and could not emotionally part with that building as a result because it was like a physical record. And then the kids came in and got a photographer in when she was away and did like a perfect photograph of that measurement. And it's like, okay, it was framed, it's ready to go. You now have that, you can take that with you.
You know where thought you were going to go? I thought the kids were going to go to a bit of demolition and actually take the wall or part of the wall of the skirting.
But honestly...
I'm sure there's people that do. They pull that bit off and then they nail it on the wall in the new house when they go to it.
But like honestly, it sounds ridiculous. But if that's actually what's helping you hold on, and then when you get there and the thing, like from my family, right, this is a slightly mad thing. Selling my grandparents' house was a very, very emotional thing, right? It was a very strong, hard emotional thing that was made after they'd both passed. And the things that we were taking from that house, like we sold it to someone who was going to demolish it, and my mother actually took the doors out of that place because the doors were imported or something, and it was just something because they felt very emotional about it. And then like when eventually they sold their house, it's like, why have we got these doors here? Like it was almost like an emotional crutch to get you into the next phase.
Maybe I put my advisor hat on, James might, but when they did it, the chattels on the sale of the house, the doors were excluded. Like in terms of just the new owners of the house.
But like it was sort of it's these funny. You're not always making rational decisions, right? I'm sure you come across that all the time. They're not always rational decisions.
And that's the thing with financial advice. And that's why we want to start the conversation with, well, what do you actually want to do? What's important to you? Put aside the numbers for a moment. And if staying in that home because of the family memories and all the rest of it are really important to you, great. Let's then solve for you staying in that home versus selling it and buying something cheaper if that was on the cards for some people.
You talk to in your book, obviously, around defining a retirement, James, but also have you got we love clients or practical examples. Have you got a practical example for us around how you've helped a client reframe what retirement looks like for them?
Yeah, it's a challenging one. You got some people that come in and they they talk about that they want to retire, and there's a couple of clients that come to mind with that question, where they've done whatever they've done in their working life and they've paid off their house and they've got their super and they've got whatever. We can have this conversation with them to say, you've got enough, like you've done enough, you can retire. You're telling me you want to retire, but then they're also in a second breath saying, actually, no, we want to keep going, we want to do more. So, well, why?
And which one is it?
Yeah, and one of the responses that came back was, well, that had enough money to essentially just replace their income from work. So you can keep living however you're living today, you can continue to do that in retirement. Fantastic. That's an amazing retirement for you. But then the follow-up comment was like, I'd always thought that if I had that much more money, then I would do all of these extra things. Yeah. And so they're kind of hanging on, and then in their late 60s now, they're kind of hanging on to this point in time when I'm going to have all of this extra money so that I can do all of these extra things But then when you follow up and say, well, is there something that you've missed out on? No, I haven't not done something. It's tough.
I love that you mentioned that. So I caught up with a fellow advisor for a coffee this morning. He's 60 and he's just sold his financial planning firm and done the earn out. And he spent basically 3 months in Europe, and he was in Tuscany. He told me about what he was doing. And for me being 45, he wasn't trying to impart knowledge or anything, but he just said he always waited until he'd sold his business or he'd done this and done this. And he said to me, I could have done it when I was your age. I just didn't plan for it. And he doesn't live with regret, but it's almost, for me this morning, that's an insight of someone who's got 15 years more experience. Just take this for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you often come across people who could have retired sooner than they thought?
Yeah, you do get some people that just don't appreciate how strong a financial position that they're in. I think it's just because money is one of these things that people don't tend to talk about too much, with their friends and family and so forth. But when they're in a meeting with us and the door shuts, all of a sudden they just start spilling their guts out in terms of their finances. And so you do come across people when they can retire earlier, but then you kind of get back to this. They need to just make sure that they're ready. The finances are one part of it, but they actually need to be ready. We see it a lot, and there's another client that comes to mind where we did some work with them in the last couple of years, and in a position to retire, enough money in super and investment property and all these kind of things. It all stacks up. Yeah. Then you have a check-in with them a couple of months after they've retired and say, well, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I've read a few books and hasn't really done much. Yep. And then the phone rings and the old workplace says, oh, we've got this thing going on. Can you come back with this project?
Can you come in for a couple of days a week?
Yeah.
Or can you do this? And
they go and do that. And then they're actually so happy, loving life, and said, yeah, I'll come back. But they're kind of then working on their terms. They said, yeah, actually, we've got this 6-week trip to Europe planned, but I'll come back so long as I can have my 6 weeks off. And then the employer says, yeah, no worries, we'll pay you a couple of days a week to do the work, and then when you come back, you work another couple of days a week thereafter.
I'm sure you do something similar as well, James. For us at Tribeca, that's why we like to talk about financial retirement, so it doesn't seem so finite. So once you got financial retirement, now what? And now do you want to do? And even sitting here in this conversation with yourself and Steph, I'm reminded, I don't know where the balance is, but generally it's around financial retirement, but it's people wrapping their minds around it's the psychological change that comes with it as well, and maybe in equal parts.
So by that you mean financial retirement is you no longer have to work.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
what would you really like to do? But that can be quite scary, because if you've been in routine for 25, 30, 35 years, then what next? And without talking to potentially financial retirement, it can seem like a bit of a cliff. But if people are working with the likes of James or people with us, at Tribeca, then they can, if they've got a 10-year window or whatever they're talking about up to retirement, then they can psychologically prepare for it as well as financially prepare for it through good strategy.
Have you guys found that there's a bit of a uptake in the idea of retiring early? Because online there's a lot of a movement. I think it's the FIRE movement, which is financially independence, retire early. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a really interesting phenomenon. But so far as I can see, a lot of that involves flogging yourself for 20 years.
Yeah, it's doing absolutely nothing, spending absolutely nothing to build up a lot. And there's different people, there's some YouTubers and things that are at the other end of that, this FIRE journey. And there's a few of them that are getting to a point and say, well, I'm bored now. Like, what am I going to do? I'm 30-something, I'm 40-something. I can afford to retire. I've got plenty of money. But then they're getting bored. We see a bit, and I suspect you do at Tribeca as well, but there's a lot of 40-something-year-olds that we're talking to that have this idea. They can't get their head around the idea of not working yet. They're still too young, but working towards this idea of not needing to work, exactly as you were saying before. And so that, whether you call it an early retirement, work becomes optional. You start to do things that you might want to, you work part-time or you go and volunteer somewhere or whatnot. But there's an increasing number of people that we're talking to that are often in their early 40s. They've got a bit of time ahead of them where we're building plans to help them work towards a point where they don't have to work anymore. They might choose to work because they love what they do, or they go and do something else, but they're not working because they need the money anymore.
I couldn't agree more, James. And the other piece that we're doing at Tribeca, as people will say, get into their 40s or even late 40s, Steph, is that introducing them to people like career coaches, career transition. So people these days will have maybe 2, 3, 4 phases of a career. So then what do they want it to be? Does it naturally go to the executive level? Is it leadership? Is it maybe board? Is it charitable as well? So we've probably got, as financial advisors with EQ, we've got to a point where we can help people plan, but then we can bring in some real experts who can have other conversations, ask key questions and like as well. So we find that, yes, as financial advisors like James, we can introduce to accountants, estate planners, mortgage brokers, but we find this other suite of people who sit in this wellbeing space as well, and clients are really gravitating to that. Yeah,
I think it's a really interesting phenomenon at the moment. I don't know, just in my own personal life, I've got a lot of friends who have, and I'm late 30s, and a lot of my friends are in that sort of area, who are definitely not in a position where they are financial retirement. That's not it, but they're...
Are they factoring in a potential inheritance?
Well, some of them actually genuinely, yeah. But that's like...
But go to any good advisor.
Yeah.
They will do that with their clients as well, factoring in.
Yeah, and then what they're trying to work out is, how can I physically work as little as possible so I can do the things that matter to me? And I feel like that's a real sort of movement in the zeitgeist at the moment, that the idea of you slog away at a job 8 hours a day and then you reap the rewards of that, which is, you have a nice house or whatever. That status quo has changed a bit. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of moving, at least in my circles, the other way. It's like, well, I'm not going to win that game, so how do I win it differently? Yeah.
And you wonder, where does this play out? Because the whole retirement system in Australia, at least for the moment, is primarily built on you owning your own home and having some money to be able to support yourself. And so there's this, there is this swell of people that are kind of opting out of that norm, as you're explaining, to work a little bit less, maybe decide that they don't want to own a home and they want to bounce around and travel and have the freedom of rent and so forth. Only time's going to tell what does that actually then mean for these people 20, 30 years down the track. Does the retirement system in Australia change to keep up with that? Who knows? But you've got to just see how the system works at the moment, and then how do you use that system to your best advantage over time.
We've certainly seen, Steph, post-COVID, people buying far more into this balance around, whether you call it work-life balance or whatever it is, but there's choices. We exchange time for money, and that's the most important commodity, and more people are choosing time. Yeah. So they're choosing, is there less travel? Am I willing to maybe take a $25,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 less salary? I give half of that to the tax person anyway. So what's really important to me in life? And I think, as James touched on, then if people choose to rent and travel and do other things, the most important thing that we'd agree on is they have a life, they have a plan in place. Yeah. It's not based on wishful thinking or she'll be right down the track.
Yeah, definitely. I think that what you said about this whole system, will it support the current generation where they're at? That is a very interesting, it's a big question, it is. But it's a very interesting question, because again, I reckon the people who are opting out of the home ownership thing often just cannot afford it. I mean, and there's a separate interesting question about whether or not it's a good use of money to, sink all the money that you make into a mortgage for a place that you can't afford to get a foothold into a system that's a little bit rickety at the moment.
And so subjective about where you're from, right?
Yeah,
so
right,
James and I are both from Melbourne. Yeah. You're from Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we don't need to tell you.
Yeah. It's bad. But again, if you move further out and get a cheaper place in Sydney, it's like, well, then the job opportunities dry out. It's like, this is like, there's no sort of solution. But as the system stands now at the moment, this is a book for someone who is thinking seriously about retirement and is in that age group. Correct?
Well, yeah, there's bits in there for everyone. So people have been buying it for their 20-year-old kids to just give them, they're not retiring anytime soon, but to just give them a bit of an understanding of how does the system work.
And that's the education component, right, James?
That's it, because there just isn't, there isn't the education through the schooling system. If you go into financial advice, or maybe your parents can impart some wisdom on you or something like that, it isn't around unless you're going looking for it. So there's that. The sweet spot for the book is probably that kind of 40 plus. They've got a house, whether they've got a mortgage or whatnot, and they're kind of just starting to look at, okay, there's a bit of a timeline here. I can see the next 15 to 20 years. I don't want to be doing this forever. What are the things that I can be doing now so that I don't have to be doing this forever? And then it goes on to, the people in their 50s and 60s. There's some comments in there about the aged care system and so forth. So it fits with a really wide group of people.
Which would work well for, people. You would have this, James, when you see a client for the first time and maybe they go through the journey with you or they go through the journey with us and I wish I had done this sooner.
Yeah.
But it's never too late, right?
No, that's it.
Whether you're 52 or 62, better to do it today than do it tomorrow.
Yeah, it might have been better to do it 5 years ago, yes, but you didn't. So
it's better than doing it in 5 years' time,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you managed to steer someone towards a good retirement when they maybe left it too late?
Yeah, so for some clients, they come in and it is a case of, hey, James, I retired yesterday. This is what I've got. Mm-hmm. Help me make best use of what I've got. And fortunately, for a lot of those people, you can find a way through it. Sometimes it's you're telling them, you can have the retirement of your dreams. And other times you're saying to them, look, it's not quite the retirement of your dreams, but hey, we can help you make best use of what's here and the age pension system or whatever else is available to them.
It'll be far from a nightmare. It might not be the dream, but it's far from a nightmare.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question without notice. What's your retirement look like?
So my retirement, my plan at the moment is I want to have my mortgage paid off by the time I'm 50. That'll give me 10 years. I have no intention of stopping work, but that'll give me 10 years from 50 through until 60 to then start to do a few other things. I'd like to have a holiday house in the Gold Coast. That's somewhere along the journey. But also around the age of 50, both of my kids will have finished school as well. So I'll have those kind of those big kind of life things that a lot of people are trying to, have the house done and the kids finished schooling. And then I'll have 10 years of earning a decent income, not too much in the way of financial commitments compared to what I have today, to then really ramp up my retirement plans.
And so the key couple of things to take from that, Steph, there is a plan in place, and I love the fact James is practicing what he preaches. That's what people want to hear from an advisor. There was an immediate answer
there. If you're then we're like, oh gosh, we'll take that and we'll edit that one out.
Where he did throw me off is I thought he might want the house up at Port Douglas because we happened to be staying at a hotel with our family, and I ran into James in the pool a number of years ago. So I thought it might have been Port Douglas.
The Gold Coast is easier to get to. It's cheaper
than the 3 hours plus the hour bus. Yeah,
and there's more stuff to do.
So many times you go to Hartley's Crocodile Farm or whatever it is.
That's it.
Is there?
Yeah.
What? You're kidding me. I've got an annual pass.
Well, there you go. Well,
I go free for the...
There's no judgment on this podcast.
No, of course
each
not.
their own.
Well, what's your retirement then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, 45 now, there'll be in current role for at least 7 to 10 years. And then I'd look at, I'm not really a board type of person. So I'd look at other ways which I can contribute and make investments as well. So I will be very much like James. I'll continue to work for the finite future. And that's the feedback I got from my wife as well, that she doesn't want me around the house for 5 days a week. So it's either the hobby, and I'm not that good at golf, and I really like work. So that's the key piece. But not dissimilar to James, yes, pay off the house sooner rather than later. So 5-year window for us as well. So 50 is the same, whether it's a holiday house, or I might even revert to being boring, setting up the right legal structure, having some money in index fund, maybe taking multiple properties out of the equation.
I kind of love the idea of you getting a hobby, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
What do you think would be a good hobby for me?
What would be a hobby for you?
Don't know.
Knitting? That'd be very mindful.
I used to knit as a kid. I did. I learned how to knit as a kid.
I'm surprised by that because I cannot imagine you sitting still.
Yeah, no, hobbies, it's TBC, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
It's TBC.
Yeah.
Works the hobby.
Hobby farm, maybe.
We've talked about this, but
there's
a lot of maintenance. I've been working this one over.
Okay, so that has been in the...
Oh, yeah, no, that's absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my retirement plan is just to marry rich. So that's...
You're better than that, Steph. You're better than that, Steph. We've discussed this.
It's not working out so great right now. So, but who knows?
But next podcast, we've got a relationship person on that. Don't we have a matchmaker on?
Oh, I hope so. Let's do that. Yeah, can we do that?
He's one now.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're going to change the direction of this podcast. Yeah, one day I'm going to come in dripping in gold and I'm just going to flip this table and say I'm out.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's worked out.
And in all seriousness, and I love how you asked James that impromptu question around, but that allows a good advisor to have real empathy for their clients because they've walked in their shoes. If you haven't done your own planning and have a plan in place, short, medium, and long term, very hard for whether clients know or not, but to be empathetic and create trust and things like that too. And it doesn't have to be, like from what James explained, without giving it doesn't have to be overly rigid, but there is a short, medium, and long-term plan.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everyone's plans have to be a little bit flexible because life gets in the way. You know, things don't always work out how we want them to, or amazing opportunities come up. Maybe you'll
James
move to America or something.
Maybe the book will sell and I don't need to work anymore.
Well, I was going to say, James didn't know 5 years ago he was going to be a best-selling author.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but that's it. It's just you just need that direction, and the direction gets narrower and narrower as you eventually get to whatever age it is that you're aspiring to do these things. But you just need the direction, and so then okay, I'm heading in this direction. So that means I need to put X into my mortgage. I should probably add a little bit more to my super. I should do these things. You tick, you go down the list and tick them off. But I'm heading in a certain direction.
And if people don't feel they're ready for advice, James, buying a copy of your book and self-leading through the process will give them a great grounding, won't it?
Yeah, there's heaps of worksheets in there. So I did it on purpose that I wanted, and someone shared a picture on Instagram just yesterday. The book was looking a bit ratty, like they'd been flipping backwards and forwards, but that's what I wanted from it. There's all these worksheets and things in there.
Almost like a workbook.
Yeah, so there's things that you can go through, and then my hope is that people will then revisit that in a few years down the track and hopefully have made some progress along the lines of whatever they're aspiring to within the book.
Yeah, I think as well, making this active and trying to set in mind, like I think for a lot of people, the idea of retirement feels boring because it feels like admin.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of imagination. It's like, oh, how much money am I going to have? Oh, that means looking at bank accounts. Oh, and there's a lot there that's just like drags on you. But actually it's an imaginative journey to what do you want to do.
That's it.
That's kind of fun. Like that's exciting.
It's what are you retiring to? What are you going to do? And so then you need some resources to be able to support that. But pin all of that on the where I want to live and who I want to surround myself with. What do I want to do? What am I aspiring to? What am I retiring to? And then the numbers are a little less boring.
Have you ever had any weird people, like any weird things that people are retiring to? Any out of the box?
I had a meeting with someone just last week, and this is the first time that I had it. They did a round the world cruise for a year.
Okay.
Cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they could afford it. They were in a really great financial position, but they were on the cruise ship for 9 months.
Wow.
9 months, and they did all the activities. They said we weren't going to skimp on anything. We had a nice suite. We knew we were going to be on here for a while. It wasn't just two little beds in a tiny little room. Nice suite, and they were on the cruise for 9 months. So lots of people want to go overseas, Thailand and Bali and these kind of things. Cheaper, the weather, the food, all the rest of it. So that's not too uncommon these days.
Sitting on a cruise ship for 9 months sounds like hell to me.
But
it's for everyone different.
But Steph, at this stage of your life, it does.
Oh, I reckon that is. I reckon that's a core part of my DNA.
What if the man of your dreams likes going on cruises?
Well, he's rich, so I'll do what he says.
Well, you got some. There's some. I think it's maybe more of an American thing, but there's some elderly, like 80s, quite elderly people, where instead of going into nursing homes and retirement villages and these kind of things, they sell up the family home and they just go on the cruise ship for the rest of it.
You can see the logic in it, though, right?
Someone makes their bed, someone prepares their dinner, someone does their washing. There's a hospital on board.
You go to dinner, you speak to someone new each night. You create these friends, and there's interesting stories.
They stay on, but everyone else changes over every couple of weeks, and so
I also like the idea that no one can drop the grandkids off at you.
Yeah,
it's like no one's going to be like, oh, can you look after this? Like, no, sorry, I'm in Hawaii.
And
it's like if you can get them to Fiji in a week's time, sure, see you then. Like that's a nice way to sort of move off.
It works.
But it's such a broad spectrum, right, of what makes people happy.
It is, and for some It's just staying at home. I'm not doing a whole lot. And
Yeah.
so for someone else looking in, that looks incredibly boring. And then for others, it's like the cruise. There's some people that we talk to, like, I couldn't possibly think of anything worse to go and do a cruise.
And, literally by the cover, James, so retire life ready. So find what your life ready is and then enjoy it. Like I think to some of our clients at Tribeca who are retirees, they have the most abundant, fulfilled life, but there's not a lot of commonality. The thing is, I think they've found what's authentic to them.
You can't. It's not a cookie cutter.
No.
But we always. I would have thought of retirement as a cookie cutter exercise, but it's not. It's so
for
personal.
some people, it's 5 rounds of golf, or they play. Some people go absolutely not. For some, it's some other hobby. That you might or might not have talked about.
Yeah. For some people, it's just not retiring. That's
that authentic life ready.
Yeah, and I think some people. Have you noticed that there's a difference between? Can you pick who's going to thrive in retirement and who isn't going to thrive in retirement? Do you have a bit of a barometer for that now?
You do. You can get a sense of the people that are ready for it.
Yeah.
And there's numerous times when I've spoken to people, they're ready on paper financially, but you'll have it as part of the conversation and say, you're not ready. You're not ready for it. You're not ready to give up work. And so then, we might still work with them and we'll do some planning and so forth, but they get 6, 12 months down the track and then maybe they're ready. Maybe it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the track. But you can see in those early conversations, you can see if someone's actually ready to give it up or not. You can tell.
Just going back to Steph's question, James, around what does your plan look like at retirement? Did I hear? Have I seen you're a keen gardener? Got a bit of a green thumb like this? In the notes?
I never was. But we knocked down an old house. We built a new house, and it was this house on a block of land. The builder says, "Here you go, congratulations, we've delivered the house," and it's just dirt everywhere. I'm like, oh God. So then it was like weekend after weekend after weekend to actually make the garden look half okay. We got a landscaper in to do some of the heavy stuff, some turf, and we had to put some retaining walls and stuff in. But then it's the financial advisor in me. It's like I've spent so much money and so many weekends doing all of this. Yeah. I don't then want to just let it go. Yeah. And so I started doing videos, and some of my Instagram and TikTok videos are me
multi-talented stuff.
Cutting the grass. Yeah. But then the number
of
people.
That is peak dad.
Yeah.
That is peak dad.
I've got my socks on. I've got my dad cap on.
Yeah.
But then the number of people that then I'll have meetings with them, and I'll say, I saw your lawn videos, or I saw this, and I'm like, actually, I can see you're a real person. I enjoy this thing, or I can't stand the lawn, or whatever. But it actually brings up some conversation.
It's a hook into your humanity,
it
right?
is. It's me as a real person, other than just me, the guy that's talking about superannuation all the time.
That is so funny. The personal is the universal, right?
I've mentioned it multiple times. Authenticity.
Yeah, I'm an apartment person.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, looking after gardens and stuff. I'd if I had one, I'd go the Greek method.
Is there any? There wouldn't be at the price of Bondi. There wouldn't be any lawn in Bondi.
Oh no. If there's a lawn in Bondi, you'll put a shed on it and make it a room and charge $400 a week. That's what I do.
Yeah. So my retirement plan is not to have a garden and maintain it. Absolutely
not. Really?
No.
Oh, so you haven't.
No. So my wife and I even now we talk about that we will sell the big house that we've got and buy something smaller as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, right.
And it might even be to the point that we might even have the mortgage paid off by then. Might be 50 or something and whatever. But yeah, downsizing from the house that we've got and the yard and stuff. I have no intention of keeping it forever.
Because you had kids and you
and we just kind of built a house for the area where we are. So there's some schools that people aspire to send their kids nearby are all within walking distance of where we are. And so we don't need a house this big. There's only the 4 of us, but we'll build a house for the area that in time some other family will want to buy to send their kids to the school that's down the road.
And as an advisor, tax-free capital appreciation on your principal residence.
There you go. See, he's always thinking.
And then we'll downsize and top up our super and happy days.
I couldn't have a big house because the more I have a small apartment with not much storage, and that stops me from buying stuff. Yeah. As in, not that I'm a spendthrirt.
Do you have a Temu confession?
No, I genuinely, but the problem is that it's not so much my buying habits, it's the throwing out habits, which are an issue. So it doesn't mean if you acquire one thing a year, if none of the other things go, eventually you'll run
Structure's
out of space.
working for you.
Yeah, that's it. So, but if you don't have any cupboard space, that does sort of
one in, one out. My in-laws downsized to an apartment they got an apartment in the city.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law wanted to keep certain things, and my mother-in-law was like, no, nothing's coming. And so she said to the kids, my wife and my brother-in-law, take whatever you want, the couch, the TV, I'm buying everything brand new. Nothing is coming. We're going to pack the suitcases and take some clothes. There's a new couch, there's a new TV, there's new everything. New forks and spoons, so everything brand new.
Just for those people listening, James, out of your in-laws, who wears the pants? You don't have to answer.
I think we have the answer. I think we have the answer. Yeah, but that would be so liberating.
Yeah, she was like, I'm not bringing it this stuff, and so we've got a whole lot of hand-me-down stuff in our house. My brother-in-law has in his. But yeah, it was brand new bowls, brand new knives and forks, brand new couch, brand new everything. Start from scratch.
Yeah, that's and every now and then I'm like, God, that would be so easy. I've got a box that I haven't unpacked from my last house move, which was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
it's just there, and I just look at it. It's like, at this point, I should just throw it out.
That's the box you can just throw out.
Then you hope it's like, oh no, this precious heirloom or whatever.
But if you throw it out and never open it, you don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like that's Schrodinger's packing box. It's like it is neither valuable nor valuable. The cat is neither alive nor dead.
Further consideration around retirement, life, all of these things that sit outside financial, right?
Congratulations, James, on your book. I think that
Thank you.
You've got a lot of information to cram in there. If people would like to buy Retire Life Ready, where will they find it?
All bookshops, Big W's got it, all the online retailers, it's everywhere.
And what about your socials? Where can people find you?
So just search my name, James Wrigley, Wrigley, on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Just put it into Google, you'll find all those. I'm on all these different places.
Beautiful. James, thank you so much for your time. And if you enjoyed this episode, do make sure you give Money and a Good Life a follow wherever you're listening now so you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Advice given in this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to influence decisions about investing or financial products. Our listeners should always seek their own professional advice that considers their own personal circumstances before making any financial decisions.